Hello, Happy New Year, and welcome to episode 245 of the Random Title Podcast. I'm Jason.
I'm Angel.
And you may notice we are Kevin-less this episode. Kevin-less. But yeah, schedule conflicts aside, we have got a show for you full of old things. Yeah, that's right. What better way to start a new year than with things from past years? Which I guess kind of makes Kevin not being here almost makes sense, because like it's kind of with our theme and, you know, throwback to yesteryear of the pre-Kevin days of the podcast, and we're talking older games slightly, so
man, we've had quite a few combinations of missing people, huh? Like, I know we've had you missing for one Quarantine Chronicles a while ago.
No, I've been in every single one. I've been on all of them. I sat there silent.
I could have sworn I recorded.
I sat there silently.
I know for a fact I recorded one episode without you.
Nope. What you did is a 50-minute conversation about The Last of Us Part 2, and you kind of just left me there, and I didn't know what to talk about. So I just sat there in silence for 50 minutes.
Oh, never mind. I remember what it was. You left for a while. You stepped away for a conversation. I forgot what it was for.
It was... Oh, yeah. It was spoilers of Good Place.
There we go, yeah. Man.
But yeah.
Hashtag bless.
Shut up. Yeah, but we do, no Kevin aside, and apparently me being a curse on you when we do the podcast aside, we do have, I think, a good show ahead of us. We're going to be sharing our impressions of a few games that take established IPs in some different directions, Minecraft Dungeons and Crash Team Racing Nitro-Fueled, as well as like what IPs we may want to see branch out in different directions. We're also going to have a little bit of news that occurred during the holiday break, and just to really emphasize that this is the first show of the new year, we'll be sharing our Switch gaming resolutions for 2021. And of course, all these topics, per usual, have timestamps on the episode 245 blog post over at ramtown.com or under the YouTube video if you're streaming over there. So yeah, it should be a bit looser of a show. But since we are right at the top of the year, how was your New Year's, Angel? Did you do anything interesting?
No, played some Black Mesa, hung out with Dog. Oh, that was cool. Had a little Santorini tournament. For those that don't know, it's a pretty fun puzzle game. Maybe I'll talk about it on QC one day, but if you like chess-style games, check it out. Not as intimidating as chess. Let me just put that out there.
Could you do a 7-part mini-series about it like you could Queen's Gambit, or is it simpler than that?
Probably. I would say it's more interesting than chess, but maybe that's just because chess hasn't changed for hundreds of years, and this is fresh and new. Right.
Well, I look forward to eventually hearing about it on QC. Did you do any Nintendo-y things, or was it kind of a non-Nintendo weekend?
If anything, it was anti-Nintendo.
Wow, bold.
Well, no, I'm just kidding, but no, I don't.
You literally
think there
banned
was
Mario from being in your house that day.
I mean, if the Santorini tournament hadn't taken as long as it did, or maybe just like the timing that we decided to start things, we probably would have connected the GameCube and played something. Like maybe one of the Mario parties, probably like 6 or 7, but we didn't get to that.
That's kind of what I ended up doing, actually. Like,
you played a GameCube
No, but I played a Mario Party. But that's why I said kind of what I ended up doing. But yeah, it's funny because like...
Oh god, please not Super Mario Party.
It was Super Mario Party. But I mean, the Switch was right there. But yeah, no, it's funny because like, I feel like because of the pandemic and everything, like New Year's was more like pretty different for me. Because usually I try and go somewhere, but that's not really an option. So...
Oh, yeah, that FOMO.
Yeah. No, so what I was left with was sort of...
This is like perfect for you. You can't.
Can't have FOMO and
there's nothing to be
exactly.
FOMO of.
I mean, the only FOMO there is catching COVID, and that's not a fear. I don't fear missing out on that, so it's okay. But no, we
wouldn't put it past you though.
No, God no. But we did. Like it was kind of nice to be in because it became like a game night. And it was weird, like this gonna sound a little cliche, but it kind of, there's something about it just remind me of like why like I like Nintendo so much in particular. Like we had, a night in with Super Mario Party.
Oh god.
No, well, I mean like,
I'm just kidding.
But we had like Super Mario Party and obviously turned that into a bit of a drinking game, and then, celebrate the countdown inside Animal Crossing, and there's just like, it's just so like wholesome. I don't know how better it's got. Like, yeah, there's plenty of
So what did they have to do at Animal Crossing?
So they,
what besides the giant countdown in town
hall?
Well,
they have the countdown, and they have it's like a whole animation, and it says like 2021 and everything, and they have you can get your party hat, and they now in advance of the celebration sell different things, so you can get like a sparkling cider that you can toast with, non-alcoholic of course. And like, you know, the party poppers and other things. And then you just, you know, get to talk to villagers and all their New Year's resolutions.
No 2021 glasses?
You know, I don't remember if there were any. I didn't buy any. Were there any? I don't remember. But either way, they had like the countdown and the characters are there, and then just the fireworks show for the next like hour. So you could walk around the island and do your own thing and just have the fireworks. But really what was nice about it is like, cause even the ball drop in New York, like didn't have a crowd. Like they had 40 like essential workers and then just an empty Times Square. That was it. So it was kind of nice to, and that's obviously, you know, East Coast and we're on the West Coast. So it was nice to actually have like a thing to count down with. So in a way, like between Super Mario Party and Animal Crossing, it almost kind of felt like a whole like thing, because you know you party, you do your drinking, whatever, your games, and then like you go do the countdown. So it just kind of was like a virtual version of that, which was kind of nice. And I know like a ton of games could be fun with friends. Obviously, you know, Among Us, if you want to have a bit more mischievous of a night, that could be a really fun thing to do with friends. Apex, Overwatch, Call of Duty,
mischievous of a night. Wow.
No, but you know what I mean. Like if you want it to be like it's wholesome, if you want like
you rascals out there
if you
want to get into trouble, go play some Among Us.
But no, I mean, like, if you don't want something quite as wholesome, it's like, hey, we're just, like, counting down in a game with little talking animals. And obviously, like, what I started saying is there's a ton of team-based, like, competitive stuff. You can do, like, Apex and Overwatch and Call of Duty and even Rocket League, and those are all fun with friends. But, like, I don't know, as cheesy as it sounds, there's just something so, like, I sort of said already, but, like, wholesome about how I had, like, this little Nintendo New Year's game night. And I think, part of it was probably because the games just felt thematically appropriate. Like, you know, a party game. And a game with an actual countdown.
Is this the part where you say that your New Year's was sponsored by Nintendo?
Yeah, this is the part where I say that I am a paid... No, I wish. #ad. #spawn. No, but I don't know. It's just something... Like, the thing that kept popping into my head, like, throughout the night. Not constantly, but, you know, a couple times throughout the night was... There was this... I just get really weird, but roll with me here. A few weeks back, Miyamoto did an interview with the New Yorker magazine. And it was a really great read. Like, it was more about Miyamoto himself and his mindset than any one project. And, like, not to go too much on a tangent here, but there's, like, some great little segments in there. Like, at one point...
Did he say what happened to Star Fox Zero?
He did not, because, again, it was more about him than the games. But there was a funny line.
Well, that's why I'm curious, maybe, like, where his mind state was. Maybe he just wasn't in a good place.
Well, considering it was made by Platinum and not him... I think it's okay. I mean, he demoed it and talked about the controls and probably was the guy that forced the controls.
I thought he was, like, directly responsible for, like, the controls.
He probably was.
Maybe he's just taking credit for it?
I don't know. No, I don't know.
I don't know, because, I mean, it seems like the blame, like, anywhere I've read or asked, it seems like the blame is, like, placed squarely on him.
I mean, he is the one that always insists on
wanting it to be however it was.
He is the one that always insists on those sorts of things. So it probably was. But this was...
If anything, considering Platinum made it, I'm sure if Platinum had their way with it, it probably would have looked way different.
You're probably right.
Just imagining what Platinum could do with the Star Fox
game.
I
mean, this was...
They practically had one in Bayonetta 1. There's like a... what's the name of that franchise from Sega where some guy is holding like a giant rocket?
What?
And they're like kind of flying it through the foreground. It's like a Sega Genesis game.
Space Harrier?
But yeah, Space Harrier, the thing with the super catchy theme. Yeah, there's like a Space Harrier inspired level at the end of Bayonetta 1 that's also kind of Star Foxy. And it just kind of reminded me of like, oh wow.
Well,
they definitely know what they're doing.
You might be right.
Maybe that's why they got picked.
Yeah, that probably is. And then Miyamoto's like, now don't do any of that. But, yeah, no, the interview was more about him and like his state of mind. But the thing I thought was kind of funny, at one point they asked him, like they literally asked him like, what type of boss are you? And like, what's your like work ethic and this, that, and next thing. And when they ask him what type of boss he is, his immediate response is, you mean like if I were a video game boss? Which is just such a like Miyamoto answer. But, we'll link to the whole thing in the blog post for anyone who wants to read the article. I recommend it. It's interesting. But anyway, the reason I bring it up is in that interview, he talks about...
Oh, you're not going to tell us?
What? Everything in the interview?
Well, that's all he said. No. About what kind of boss
he is. You're going to have to go read the article. Yeah, leaving you in suspense. Gotta give New Yorker those clicks. They did the interview. But no,
that kind of makes me want to click less, but alright.
No, what I was gonna say though is that was a tangent. The thing I was gonna bring up is they asked him what makes a Nintendo game, and he kind of was explaining the idea of like creating this sort of warm feeling that's super approachable for anyone who wants to join or even just watch, and like you do it together, and yeah, so my game night was happening and I thought of that, and then that sent me down memory lane to the pre-pandemic times where for years, Angel, you'd host game nights around the holidays with titles like, Nintendo Land and groups of friends would just sort of pop in and out, and nobody really needed to know how to play or what to do. They just come in, play, maybe they just watch if we didn't have enough controllers, and everyone like had a good time. I was just like, honestly, Nintendo's pretty cool. Like, it was, these were just fleeting thoughts in the moment on New Year's Eve, but just kind of like, okay, yeah, this is why I like these guys so much. Like, this is like, it's really cool how this night sort of came together during a pandemic when there was nothing going on. So, I mean, I don't know if you ever had that sort of vibe in a moment of any of the Nintendo Land or Mario Party or Mario Kart nights that we've had at your place over the years, but it was just kind of, I don't know, just like clicked for a minute in the middle of all the New Year's stuff. And it was kind of nice. Yeah. And like, and to be clear, it's not like I was like it's like I'm saying like, oh man, I love Nintendo. Like, I didn't zone out to the point that I lost Super Mario Party. I mean, I did lose at Super Mario Party, but it was the drinks, not the fleeting thought here. But, yeah, it's just kind of a nice reminder of like, as much as we nitpick Nintendo and second guess their every move, the experiences they create are really just so like pure and wholesome and fun. And I think it's because of those, which is why at least I like talking every 2 weeks
pure and wholesome.
about it.
It's a good way to put it.
Yeah. And really, this is just a Trojan horse for me to say after playing Super Mario Party. We gotta say it every time I bring it up. Where is the DLC? Where is it? Come on, Nintendo. I'm trying to get this out of the way early in 2021, but really, where is the DLC?
I literally looked everywhere, even where I thought it wouldn't be, just because, sometimes things pop up there. But
where would you look where it wouldn't be? Like the dark web? Like what? Like where do you go to find DLC? Are you like in a Tor browser just looking for DLC? Like,
I just checked the top of my desk for a random thumb drive that just said Super Mario Party DLC.
It just say it's like best mini games of 1, 2, and 3 just on a thumb drive. But
seriously, like if they just put like a top 100 on the Switch, even that would just be great.
I still can't believe they put down 3DS and not Switch.
With online multiplayer, of course, they'll find a way to.
Honestly, they should just up-res top 100 and call it a day. Like, just use the Mario Party engine and just release 100. It's not that hard. But anyway, sorry, that was a tangent. I was just saying that, yeah, Nintendo made for a decent New Year's Eve. But you, I guess it wasn't on New Year's, but you've also been playing the other side of the Nintendo coin, the more challenging side lately, right? Because you were checking out. We talked about the Game & Watch as a device, but you actually have been going through Lost Levels, haven't you?
Yeah, because like this thing costs like $50.
Might as well play it.
Make sure I play.
Dude, it's making a killer clock for me. Still on my desk. It's a great clock.
I really do appreciate that aspect of it. Yeah. It's nice just having it connected and viewable at all times. But as far as those games go, though, this was my first time revisiting the game in definitely over 10 years, because I do remember playing it once in a while in Super Mario All-Stars back when, I guess, the Super Nintendo was still relevant. But replaying it now, it's kind of weird. It just kind of feels like, maybe more so than I would have noticed before, but it definitely feels like it's like a Mario Maker game, I guess. It feels like a game that someone made in Mario Maker, just based off of the Mario 1 assets. Like, everything just feels a little more extreme and just kind of like weirdly placed, but not in a bad way, but just like for the sake of challenge. Yeah. Like, you could definitely tell this game was just made to be like, yeah, you beat the first one, well, like, hold on to your overalls. Like, you'd seen nothing
Hold on
yet.
to your overalls. Fitting, yeah. And your emblemed cap.
But, yeah, and I mean, besides, like, the poison mushroom, like, there isn't anything too new off the top of my head. I mean, everything, like, literally everything is reused except for, I don't remember seeing the super trampoline a lot in part 1.
I don't think it was.
At all. Like, yeah, because that thing definitely stands out the first time you jump on it. You just, like, go rocket past, like, the screen, and then you're just suspended in the air for a long time. And you're supposed to use that to cross large gaps, which you definitely don't really have a lot like that, or anything in Super Mario 1. But, I don't know, it's interesting. I feel it still holds up. Like, I don't know, both Mario 1 and 2, like the actual, I guess either, for that matter. I guess any Mario game for that matter as well, are the only, like, NES games that I feel are still fun to play and revisit. I obviously prefer the feel of more modern Mario games where you have more control in the air, I mean, these are just different and they're more challenging because you don't have as much control. It's like really dependent on momentum. But they're the only NES games I could tolerate, like from the first generations of these like franchises.
Right.
Like Zelda, I get bored way too quickly. Kind of the same thing with Metroid. Like, I feel if I had played these way before I played like Super Metroid or Metroid Fusion, or I don't know, I guess we'll say like Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask, I probably would have appreciated these more. But I mean, I guess I could still appreciate them. I just can't find them fun.
Right.
Except for the Marios. Well, they're like, it could actually also just be simply because Nintendo has literally shoved Mario 1 down our throats for like the past like 2 decades or more. And we've been pretty much playing it like in little scented minigame doses, like whether it be in WarioWare or some other games, that it's just always stayed, I don't know, conscious and fresh.
Well, I think there's another...
the other games...
I think there's another layer to it, too.
It is very pick up and play.
I think it's...
Yeah, I mean, it is also the most, like, Nintendo-y of those 3 for that.
And not just that, though, but I think, like, you know, we talked a few episodes ago about, like, Star Fox and how the entry point to the franchise can really make or break earlier entries. And I think the thing about Mario, 2D Mario, is it hasn't really changed. Like, you could look at, like, Zelda and how it's evolved, or you can look at Metroid and how it's evolved. But if you look at, like, Mario, all they did was swap out some power-ups for some other power-ups. That's about it. Maybe the momentum's a little different, to your point. Or the jumping in the air, that sort of thing.
No, it is.
But, like...
It's not, definitely not a little.
No, but I mean, in terms of...
But that's not a visual change.
Yeah, but in terms of, like, the gameplay, it's the same. Like, Zelda, you know, they really elaborate on how the puzzles work. Metroid became a lot more about, like, exploring the map in a very, you know, and all that stuff. But, like, the original was just like, all right, you're in these rooms, and you just go room to room and figure it out. And then the layer ones, like, really, like, the story threaded the needle and all that. So, like, I feel like Mario's the most modern 2D Mario is probably the closest to what the NES Mario was compared to any other Nintendo franchise. And that's probably why it's the most approachable still for you, if I had to guess, on some level. And Nintendo shoving it down our throats. But I imagine a big part of it simply because Mario's the least evolved of them all. They say pretty tried and true to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Mario Maker comparison you made at the very start there was interesting, because I remember when Mario Maker first came out, Nintendo was talking about, oh yeah, we have these internal dev tools that let us literally just like mix and match elements of games, and those are now what we're turning into like a consumer friendly, accessible interface with Mario Maker. So literally, what you're saying, it feels like Mario Maker, it probably was. It was whatever the early set of Mario Maker style tools were that then evolved into Mario Maker 30 years later or whatever. But yeah, because I only dabbled in it. To be honest, I haven't. I've been using the Game & Watch a lot more as a clock than as a game device. And yeah, I tried to. What? Shocking that I'm not playing a game device as much. I know, right?
Yeah. You think I learned by now? But
no, but I mean, like, because I could play Mario on the Switch, and I could play Mario on my Game Boy Advance, and I could play Mario on probably my Wii, and it's on so many things.
But do you?
What? The Wii U?
On which of those devices have you actually like sat down for say, let's say at least 30 minutes of just playing Mario 1?
I went through and re-beat the original Super Mario on the anniversary of the game's release back in September. So, on Switch.
Of 2020?
Yeah.
Wow,
so there you go.
Look at you.
I know, playing games.
Yeah, that almost felt like the equivalent of you going to mass or something.
Yeah, I had my religious experience of the year. Prayed to Saint Mario.
I know, like, you lock the door, you play, like, some, like, subtle, like, Nintendo music hymns or something.
And praise
your Nintendo...
And praise...
Your Mario Kart sweater or
something.
something.
And praise Saint Toadstool. Yes. But no, it was, I went through it. So there you go. You didn't expect me to have a real answer, did you? Take that. But no.
Not only did I not expect that, I didn't expect you to fully beat it. That's amazing.
Yeah. It is. I mean, I used the warp zone, to be fair, but I still made it through. But Lost Levels, I remember, so I haven't really played that much on the Game Watch, but I remember in Mario All-Stars always finding it as a kid so, like, not off-putting, but just being like, this just feels like a fake version of the other one. Like, to your point about how it feels like they just rearranged things, like, this just feels like they just It's not a game. It's just the other one, but different. And I don't know. It threw me in a loop when I was a kid. So I kind of get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, Mario 2, I guess Mario USA, like it's just so different that it definitely feels like I mean, ignoring its history, like it always felt like, oh, it's like they really like went a lot of experimenting with this game for the sequel or whatever. I mean, it's definitely Mario 2. Wow, it's like such an old game, but I'm trying to remember like off the top of my head, like other sequels that stick really close to the original that most people would maybe call them like a 1.5 because it's pretty much the same game just remixed versus
Well, I think
having almost everything be different. It's kind of like Metroid Prime 2 to 3 or 1 to 2. Like there's almost no reused assets. Like even like the types of missiles and how the mechanics of the gun work are very different. Like maybe like Country Returns 1 to 2. I mean, it's kind of just more of the same, just harder.
Donkey Kong Country Returns, I'd say, does it. The whole new Super Mario Brothers series kind of does it. They slowly up-res each one.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, New Super Mario Brothers 1 to 2, I mean, all they did...
Which
they
is
just
probably
added
why
Coin Rush.
Those games more than anything... Yeah, I think that's why like those games more than anything, like, I would say they're welcome so soon, just because they did end up feeling like they were just being made using, a game maker source, which... It sounds like it was true. I mean, I think the Mario Maker was loosely based off of the tools they used to make Mario games, and now they're just like, yeah, here you go. We can't release any more 2D Mario games after this. So,
pretty much. I mean, there's that's probably the most.
They're gonna have to really innovate in order to like make that franchise. Well, I guess
no, they don't. They wait about 5 to 7 more years, and then they just hit a reset button like they did with the new series. Because remember when new Super Mario...
And they'll be like, oh, someone already made this in Mario Maker.
But like, it's Nintendo design levels now. Or they just keep re-releasing the same one. I mean, I double-dipped on New Super Mario Brothers U. I got it on Switch because it was like $27 or something.
You did?
I just did over during all the Christmas sales. Yeah, it was like $25 or something on GameStop in like early December. So I figured, hey, it could be.
I mean, it could be a fun game to play with someone else. So
Exactly.
I can't totally blame
you. And
you.
Why have to do
my
it
brother
Wii U?
And I did beat it. Yeah, I don't think the U version adds any more levels besides.
No, it adds Peachette, and I think
so I guess there was no reason for.
No. And it puts all the Luigi U content into the base game, but that's about it. But I actually haven't started playing it yet. But the Switch version. But when I do, maybe I'll pop in and revisit because I think Mario U, New Super Mario Brothers U is probably the best of the new Mario games because it's basically they reached the point of Mario World again. So, because they did the whole loop, basically. So they went back to basics and worked their way back up. So they're back to Mario World with, like, the hub world and everything. And it's good. I
agree.
And if for
that's definitely my favorite one.
Yeah, and for, like, folks who maybe burned out after all the other ones, like New Super Mario Bros. Wii is also very good. But for folks who maybe burned out after that with, like, New Super Mario Bros. 2, like, if you somehow missed U on Wii U, and you can find it cheap enough on Switch, it is a very solid 2D Mario game. With some cool backgrounds on some of the levels, like the Starry Night one.
I mean, each of them in a vacuum, like, I would say they're all pretty good. The only problem is that if you play every single one of them, they lose their charm very quickly. But, if you somehow missed the 2D, the modern 2D Marios, they're really good.
I mean, I'll never grow old of the music where, it goes, bah, and all the characters look at the screen and dance. Like, it does get, like, 4 games in, you're like, oh yeah, they're gonna go, bah, again, but I love it every time. I'm very easy to please.
Yeah, he literally cries.
I do, a single tear. So if I play for a couple hours, there's a whole pool of water by my feet at that point. Anyway, let's talk about some games that aren't by Nintendo whatsoever. We did a lot of Nintendo stuff, but yeah, I mean, to get back to our episode theme here, which I don't even think I said what the name of the episode is, did I? We're calling it What's Old is New.
Yeah, what's the name of the episode?
It's called What's Old is New because we're talking about classic established franchise, or not necessarily classic.
We're like modern movies now. We don't even drop the title until like 24 minutes
I know. Like, that was all just the the opening scene, and now we're getting to the meat and potatoes of the episode.
The cold open.
It was the cold open. It was the prologue, if you will. But now we're at the meat of the episode, which is What's Old is New, because as I was saying at the top when I was sort of supposed to say the name. We're going to talk about some games that are established franchises doing things outside their genre, outside their jurisdiction, if you will. And there's two of them that I think both of us have played. The newer of the two is Minecraft Dungeons, which you and I have sunk in, I don't know, I'd say a fair amount of time into this past month, as it's the latest game in one of our weekly game nights we do with some friends. And I think just before we even talk about it, just for some context for those listening, this follows up our playthrough of Torchlight 2 with that same group of friends. So we're talking about a group of people who, for the most part, want deep skill trees and lots of grinding for loot and to be as powerful as possible. And on the surface, Minecraft Dungeons doesn't really seem to offer any of that. So much so that we almost didn't play it, but we took, we dove in. We're now about a month into it. And Angel, I mean, how are you liking it so far?
I honestly really, really like it. It's funny because all the negatives that we thought were negatives in the beginning, I feel just ended up being positives.
Oh, yeah.
Like a lot of the biggest criticisms of the game was about how there's basically no depth to character development. There's no real story to speak of. Like everything is just kind of mindless. But that is kind of perfect for what we needed, or just like the type of games we were trying to play. And like I like that I don't have to learn or figure out like 3 different subsets of menus or types of gear to like attach to this character. I kind of just wanted to just dive in, maybe get a few spells, which is cool. Like the game is very non-committal to like what you want to learn.
Yeah.
Like you just getting tired of this weapon, all right, cool, just get a new one. You're getting tired of that weapon, cool, just get a new one. And upgrading them is super easy. It tells you right there what upgrading each section of your weapon will give you. It's really good. I really like it.
Yeah, I think the approachability of it is something that I really, really like. Because, like, I mean, if you want the sort of, like, grind-heavy dungeon crawlers like Diablo, this is lighter fare. This is
it's
like...
definitely not for everybody.
This is like Diet Diablo. But
the
thing I found is, like, if you like games like Gauntlet from back in, like, the N64 or GameCube days, or, more recently maybe Marvel Ultimate Alliance possibly is a good comparison. Like, I feel like Dungeons sort of straddles the line between being like those, but offering a little more depth in the direction of Diablo. Like, on the surface, it certainly has less than Diablo or Torchlight or what have you. Like, there are no character classes, there's no specific skill trees. Instead, you're ranking up your character by changing out their items, like you kind of mentioned, Angel, and different item combos can give you different abilities, and you can kind of mix and match until you're all squared away, which, kind of goes to your point about if you want to swap something, you just swap something. So you've got, like, just to explain it for folks who haven't played, you got 3 categories. You have items, you have artifacts, you have enhancements. And the first, which is items, is, physical weaponry, of which you can have 1 short-range weapon and 1 long-range weapon, along with your equipable clothing like armor and boots and that sort of thing. And depending on what you wear, you can boost or change your weaponry's abilities or your own key stats, like how much damage you can take or how fast you can move, that sort of thing. And then there's bucket number 2, which are things you collect called artifacts. And that is up to 3 special abilities you can equip at any time to allow you to pull off special moves like shooting a firework at enemies or blowing them back with a gust of wind or creating a healing bubble for your party or summoning like assistance animals like bees and bats and llamas. And to ensure you don't spam these special moves, they have respawn times that are determined by how quickly you can collect souls of fallen enemies. So every time you kill someone, a little blue orb appears and you get it. And your ability to collect souls can be enhanced depending on the weapons you equip. So you can already kind of see, for folks who haven't played, you maybe can already sense sort of the interplay between the different items and how it comes together a bit. But then they add this third wrinkle on top, which you also kind of alluded to, Angel, enhancements and how you can see in real time how things will change based on what you do. And these are, like, I guess the best comparison I can think of is they're the equivalent of experience points almost. Like, you get them when you level up. But they have the added bonus of being reassignable. So you can add, I think, up to 3 enhancements on any given weapon or item, which can, right?
It depends on the weapon.
Depends, okay.
But essentially, any weapon can have potentially up to 3 enhancements. So you can have a sword that every time you deal damage, you'll get healed or will automatically throw snowballs to stun enemies. But for the most part, depending on your level, you might find a weapon that just has 1 of those. But from each of the slots to give an enhancement, you usually have 3 options you can pick from, and then the one you pick from, you're essentially committing to just that one, and the other ones go away. But because of that, I don't know, it's just really cool how I guess quickly you could go from weapon to weapon. Like you could definitely tell this was like designed for kids.
Yeah.
Because like Minecraft has like its really
Or a
wide
better way
appeal.
to put it is
like, it appeals to ages. So because it has a very just a lower entry point, and it's also like because of like the attention span thing.
Yeah.
As soon as you get tired of one thing, you are seconds away from completely changing how you play, and just finding something that clicks.
And that's actually what is particularly nice is like if you want to scrap your item, you're not losing your enhancements. It doesn't like penalize you for changing your mind, to your point about making it more approachable and short attention span. Like you can take back your enhancements with zero penalty or specific action required. Just press a button, you get your enhancement points back. The item scrapped, you do something else. And I think like that little thing in particular is kind of the embodiment of how nicely streamlined Dungeons really feels. Because like you want to change something, just change it. Like Torchlight 2, when we were doing it, if you wanted to swap out the equivalent of enhancements, which were gems, you could do it and you weren't penalized, but you had to go to a person in town, only one in the hub, yada yada. Like Minecraft was like, oh hey, you want to change it? Okay, 2 button presses, you're done. It's fine. And that's kind of like, for me, that's been the whole experience that's been really nice, is everything's just more like to the point. Like there's only one type of loot, just loot, just like money. That's it. Yeah. You don't have to worry about different objects to do different things with different shopkeepers. Like artifacts are just artifacts. You don't need to get like some other type of mana or like whatever to take to a guy just to reveal what an ability is that you may want to use, at which point you can then equip it. Like it's all just instant. And it's really nice, although now that I think about it, on some level it is extremely ironic because Minecraft is a game about crafting. And they're literally removing everything about crafting from Dungeons, unless they're trying to say, oh, well, you're crafting your ideal character, I guess.
Or, picking your own path and stuff.
Yeah.
So they definitely went against the identity of it. They like sacrifice the identity of Minecraft, in order to get what we have now, which, as we've kind of been, I guess for better or worse, gushing over. Yeah, it works, but it's not really Minecraft.
Yeah,
like
and that's what's kind of weird.
Yeah.
It like I for sure get a Gauntlet vibe from it, which I really like. But yeah, it's not Minecraft. It's just it's like a skin laid on top.
Not my Minecraft.
Not your Minecraft. I mean, well, it's funny because like it looks like Minecraft.
The aesthetic of Minecraft looks really nice. Yeah,
like
it actually looks
honestly
really, really nice.
Like the Minecraft angle may be purely cosmetic and maybe like a marketing move. Like a creeper can be a zombie like in this game. It really doesn't matter. Like they're just creepers, so they could call it Minecraft. But where it really benefits, is the rich visuals. Like I absolutely love the look of the game. I think the blockiness really helps it stand out in a genre that's so full of medieval fantasy vibes. And like just the visual effects on top of the blockiness, like the lighting and stuff. Like it's really impressive. Even on Switch, like I'm surprised at how graphically intense this game is on Switch. Like it's slowed down my Switch on a few occasions, even when docked. But it's just like, wow, they made that much of like it's that pretty that it's breaking my Switch essentially. Like it's surprising. You would think it wouldn't be like that. But you're not playing it on Switch, right? You're playing it on PC.
I'm actually playing it. Yeah, I'm playing it on PC thanks to some deal where it's like $1 for 3 months of Game Pass. It's like, well, I don't know if this is going to take us 3 months to beat, so...
Well,
yeah, I mean, so far it's cool. I mean, thanks to Game Pass, I've also been playing, like, the Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair, and...
How is that?
Checking out Killer Instinct. I just started it. I mean, control-wise, it feels literally just like I'm playing Donkey Kong Country. So...
Impressions...
I mean, I guess that's like the game that decided to get inspired
Impressions next episode, perhaps? So, perchance. I'm very curious about it. I know you're playing on Xbox.
Impressions will definitely be coming. Okay. How soon, I don't know, because I actually want to beat it.
Fair.
Because it's kind of like Breath of the Wild structure. You either can actually try and beat the Impossible Lair from the get-go, or you can play through the game to get these little bees that allow you to take extra hits while in the Impossible Lair. Interesting. So, yeah. It's literally like Breath of the Wild in structure.
Interesting. I would not have guessed that.
Which is kind of
cool. That's kind of cool. I was gonna say though, because you were talking about how, we were talking about how you are playing this on PC. Like that's another thing about, like, just to keep praising this game that I really had no expectations for. Like
the cross-platforming is always.
I mean, it's not.
I really appreciate that stuff.
It's not perfect. It's a bit finicky. Like, we've had people's games crash on a few occasions, but because, Microsoft owns one of the largest server platforms in the world, they're savvy enough to actually be running all this server side. So, like, if you fall out, if you drop out, if it freezes, you come back, it's as if nothing happened. You have all your progress, you're picking up where you left off. Like, it's surprisingly, even though it's a little finicky in getting crossplay working, when it doesn't work, it's very smooth in getting back up and running, if that makes sense. But, and to the streamlining point, like, something I do want to call out is how nice it is to do co-op in this game. I mean, obviously, like, doing co-op in a game, you go to the lobby, you select the guy, you're done. But, like, compared to Torchlight, this is just so much better. Because, after, both of them get you in the game the same way, but after you get in the game, like with Torchlight, it's like, good luck. If you get separated, it's on you. There's no on-screen indicators, really, of where to go. You kind of get a sense of where folks are from, like, a mini-map with a rough estimate of their direction, but not really. You can warp from, like, predetermined warp portals or equip a limited-use item to warp, but that's kind of it. Like, and you're only playing with people on the same platform. So Torchlight, like, feels very limited, but, like, with Minecraft Dungeons, like, and we had so many times where we get set up, split up and not know where to go, but with Dungeons it's really nice because at any moment, if you're playing on Switch at least, I don't know what the control is for you, but you click the right stick, you could warp to someone. And they have these built-in emotes that are displayed in such a way that will tell you, someone finds rare loot or whatever, or says they do, even if they don't. Angel, you do that a lot. Well,
that's because on computer, normally you play computer games with WASD, but in this one, it goes to wherever you click the mouse. So you have to click the mouse at a certain location.
Oh, I see.
So you're either constantly clicking or just holding the mouse. But initially, and just because it's really hard muscle memory to just control any game with WASD, W sends out a message to everybody saying "loot here."
I thought you were just trolling us because there's 100% something you would do. But
it is something 100% thing I would do, but yeah, it was just not getting used to the controls.
Funny. But yeah, what's nice about even that is, like, a little head pops up of who the guy is that's saying it, and then you could just hit the right stick and warp to that person. Easy. Like, ideally, you'd be moving in a unit anyway, especially.
It's literally dungeon crawler quality of life.
Pretty much. I mean, even there, the one thing I love that I wish more dungeon crawlers did was there is a little on-screen marker that shows you where to go next. Like, it's like an arrow that points you in a direction. When you get there, it's like a little, like, okay, you're here, now here's the next arrow. Like, it's so nice. Yeah. So now the one thing with Lost Approach, but we kept mentioning it's sort of a game for kids, or, it's kid-friendly. I don't know how you feel about it, Angel, but I feel that the accessibility actually doesn't hold it back from being difficult. Like, it was easy early on, but it ramped up pretty quick.
I meant more in, like, just being able to understand what to do, everything, all of that. It's kid-friendly, but the game itself can still be just as challenging. Because you definitely have to, I guess for lack of a better term, like, respect it. Like, because... I don't know, at least that's, like, the mentality I had. Like, oh, this is going to be a cakewalk. It's, like, Minecraft Dungeons. Like, it's probably not going to be that hard, even on, like, a standard difficulty. But it's like, nope, if you split up, you are definitely going to die.
Even if you don't split up, sometimes you die.
Truer than... Yeah. And it's because, like, we have a friend that in Torchlight 2, like, they were a tank. So, like, I think it was... They rarely died, if ever. But in this game, they still like to play their lone wolfness, and now they're constantly dying, like almost like every other second.
Yep.
And because they're so separated from us, after maybe 30 seconds of not reviving a teammate, something called the darkness appears, and it's basically just a bird that you can't kill that just starts dealing damage at you at frequent intervals, and so you're basically just gonna die at some point. So
and the game also has a shared 3 lives per dungeon. So if someone you can collectively, if everyone dies, you get 3 shots at that dungeon. If you all, if the birds kill you on everything and you're all dead, you get to do it 3 times and that resets, which is kind of nice because it gives you a chance if you do screw up. But it's bad if your friend continues to lone wolf, because then you just keep restarting the dungeon.
And you do respawn at the exact point you died, which is really nice. Because, you don't have to, like, redo any sections and stuff like that. But if someone is still alone and you're in the middle of a boss battle, then they're probably just going to end up dying again.
Yeah, so you can burn through those lives really quickly. One interesting thing they're doing, though, to try and keep the challenge up is they've essentially, and this is probably also because it's a big game on Xbox, on Game Pass, is they have turned Minecraft Dungeons into kind of a games of service type of release. So there are actually some cool things like that we've even done collectively that I like, that there are like daily challenges that use existing dungeons, but with tweaked situations. So maybe the enemies aren't visible now, but you can move 30% faster and dish out like 1.5 times the damage or something like that. And that is kind of nice because it feels like another thing with the approachability and the difficulty is it doesn't feel like you're just grinding for loot over and over. Like you are grinding for loot somewhat, but because they have these different scenarios and whatnot, it actually feels like you're doing something new each time. Like it doesn't feel repetitive or monotonous. And I kind of like that. And then simultaneously on the monetized side of things, they're actually pumping out a bunch of DLC for this game. They already released 2 standalone releases, which if you get the Hero Edition of Dungeons on the eShop or physical, has included in it. But they're also introducing, they just did in December, right when we started coincidentally, a season pass. So there are going to be 4 DLC releases, the first of which, Howling Peaks, is already out, and each is going to include new areas, enemies, gear. So to your point, Angel, that we could finish it in 3 months while your Game Pass trial is still going, I don't know. This is how they're going to try and hook us. They got the DLC. They got the season pass.
We could definitely beat the base game.
Yeah.
I think at the end we'll either decide, let's keep going, or
we're over it. Yeah.
Oh man, then I'll have to start paying.
But it is
at that point I may just cancel Game Pass and just get it on the Switch or something.
But and all your progress transfers over because crossplay. But yeah, it is interesting to see how like it feels like it feels like this game was really made for Game Pass. Where they're like, okay, here's a game that like people will try base level for free, and then we can rope them in with DLC and daily challenges and new season passes, and it's an interesting sort of swerve to how games are usually done, because this was on Game Pass day one, but of course all the DLC you have to pay extra for even on Game Pass, I think. So pretty clever. I'm curious though, before we wrap up Minecraft Dungeon, we kind of touched on it, but does the game being set in the Minecraft world with that Minecraft aesthetic, did it like have any influence on you? I guess what I mean is, do you have any interest? Did you have interest? Okay, yeah, because I guess what I'm getting at is like the whole reason you would make a spin-off, right? Is like if you want to interest people in picking it up because they have a past association with Minecraft.
Fact it was Minecraft.
Yeah,
definitely put it on my radar more than literally any other dungeon crawler, just because I know Minecraft.
Right. Did you then circle back to Minecraft? Are you interested in going back to core Minecraft now because you've kind of been in the world in a different angle?
Oh, I'm always interested in going back to core Minecraft. It's definitely one I revisit from time to time. But I could say this definitely helps in that. Because I'm seeing it more often, It just makes me want to play it more. Right.
Because ultimately, right, that's what these sort of spin-off games exist to do. They're either exposing the IP to a new audience, to a genre But yeah, they're either exposing an audience to a genre they already play, a new audience, to the IP, or they're bringing fans of an IP to a new genre. And I guess for you it worked, but it's interesting because I found that like as much as I like Dungeons, and we've been talking very high praise about it, I feel like, and it looks great set in the Minecraft world, like nothing in it is driving me towards Minecraft. Like it just feels so self-contained on its own that I'm happy just like, all right, I got my Minecraft. This must be what Minecraft is like. And there's like nothing wrong with that per se for me.
Oh man.
Or like, for the game's vision. It's just something I picked up on when I was playing it compared with like the other familiar IP, different genre game that I've been playing lately, which is Crash Team Racing, which does feel so much more tied into its world. Like this feels isolated by comparison. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Yeah, which I guess kind of brings us to the other game I've been playing this past week, Crash Team Racing Nitro-Fueled, and I know you have it too, I think. So to be on...
Yeah, I've had it since release.
Right, on PS4, right? Yeah, so to be honest...
Gotta stay true to the roots.
Right, of course. He's a PlayStation guy through and through, that Crash Bandicoot.
Well, no, to the roots of the game, because I was initially a big fan of it when I played it on the PS1.
Yeah. Fair. Yeah, but I was going to say, honestly, the only reason I'm even playing this game is because Nintendo is doing a 1-week free game trial for Switch Online members. So if you subscribe to Switch Online, you can download and play Nitro-Fueled in its entirety for free. Your save data will transfer over to the full game after the trial period ends on January 5th, should you buy it. And, it's interesting because like, much like Minecraft, I've only lightly dabbled in the core Crash games. So what jumped out to me when thinking about how these two games are kind of the same idea of putting something familiar in a new genre is that Nitro-Fueled does a much better job, in my mind, of making me want to know more about the Crash universe, like the core universe. Like, Minecraft Dungeons is its own little siloed off thing. Crash Team Racing feels like an endless series of references and call-outs. I'm actually kind of like, okay, who's this? Or what's the significance? Or
it's
why?
For,
you know?
I mean, not that Minecraft Dungeons doesn't have the capability of, I guess, just oozing character. I mean, it just oozes aesthetic. Yeah. The Crash Team Racing, like, because of, like, its over-the-top animations and just how zany it can be, like, yeah, it definitely stands out way more, and I can see why
it would get that. It also kind of zigs where Dungeons zagged in a different way, because Minecraft Dungeons, you know, we were talking about how it's taking a complicated experience of dungeon crawlers and making it more accessible to a different audience, right? And, you know, like we were saying, it felt like it was expanding Minecraft's footprint for its fans than bringing in new folks from the genre. So, like, it's more like, hey, kids like Minecraft, let's give them a light dungeon crawler, not let's give these dungeon crawler loving, like, hardcore Diablo fans a Minecraft experience. But CTR, from everything I've played the past few days since the trial started,
it almost does the opposite.
Yes, exactly. It's very much a game for Crash fans that assumes you already know the basics of the kart racing genre and want something deeper. And really, it reminds me a lot, I'd be curious about your take in a sec here, but I just gotta say, it reminds me a lot of Diddy Kong Racing, in that they both kind of work off the same foundation of, okay, there's Mario Kart, let's differentiate from that. Which means for both of them, there's an adventure mode that strings together various tracks, like a hub world and a bit of a story. They both try to add like a layer on top of the core racing.
Really well done adventure mode.
Yeah, I only dabbled in it a little. I mostly wanted to experience all the tracks, so that's the thing I didn't do a ton of, but tell me about the adventure mode, actually.
That will definitely give you a lot of Diddy Kong. I mean, that will give you the most, like, Diddy Kong Racing vibes, because, you know, like you mentioned, you have a hub world. Every world is themed. You go through a few races. There's a few races where you have to just collect things. And then there's always a boss race at the end, where the enemy will have, like, some kind of, like, special ability or something. And, I don't know, it's just really cool. It literally takes you back to Diddy Kong Racing. Right. Especially because, you know, they all have, like, fun little cutscenes where they kind of talk about themselves. And
also the aesthetic, let's be real here. Like, the Polynesian vibe of Crash is not too far removed from the jungle vibe of the Kong universe. So, like, the music's kind of similar. There's some visual similarities. They even, like, borrow from Donkey Kong Country the idea of collecting letters around. So, obviously, in Donkey Kong Country, you spell out Kong by finding little letters hidden in the level. Here, you spell out CTR by finding letters in the track. So, there's definitely some parallels.
They're really well hidden.
Yeah, I have barely found any, to be honest. But yeah, they're, but yeah, so that's one way that they're kind of similar. But the other thing I thought was interesting is they both try to add a layer on top of the core kart racing. So Diddy Kong introduced other vehicles, and that was kind of its out. It was like, oh, well, we're not just cars, we're also hovercrafts and planes. And then Crash was like, well, we're going to stick with cars, but we're going to change up how boosting works. So it's actually a two-part mechanic now, right? Like, you first drift to fill a meter by tapping one shoulder button, and only when the meter's in its sweet spot, you tap the other shoulder button to activate the boost. And from everything I can tell, so far with Crash, it kind of like Diddy Kong puts a much bigger emphasis on racing and your skill at that and the timing of your boosts than the sort of roulette wheel of luck that makes or breaks a race in Mario Kart. Would you say that's a fair assessment as someone who's actually played a lot more of it?
Yeah, it's a way more competitive version, because just like you said, Diddy Kong Racing like put less emphasis on the items. Like, they are definitely there, and they have like a cool upgrade system, but they're not randomized. Like, you know what item you're getting every single time, because, you know, they're color-coded. But in this one, while you do have random items, there are, I would say, much less chaotic. Like, every single item in there can be dodged in some way. Even, like, their blue shell equivalent isn't as threatening as the blue shell.
Yeah, you just jump enough times and it goes away.
But, yeah, it really just comes down to, like, the way you drift. Because that game has... The drifting mechanic is super in-depth, and even more than, like, I was able to master. Like, because that thing is tough. You really have to, like, commit time to it, like you would Smash Brothers or any other game. Because essentially, like, as you're drifting, you know, And what's nice about this game is that because of its fidelity, you can actually see, like, the perfect time to boost, like, when the tires are glowing.
There's also a giant meter on the side that you can pick one of three styles. So if you need it to be more in your face,
either one works. I usually find it easier just to look at the tire, just because, you know, like, I'm already looking at my kart racer as I'm racing.
True.
But but what's it called? Pretty much every time you successfully like boost at the top of the meter or at the perfect timing of the tire, you're storing boost. There's like a hidden gauge that is just like storing all these boosts. And the next time you go off of a ramp or like a big jump, that would normally grant you a decently length boost depending on how high the jump is. You will suddenly like just like go off. Like you will either have like a blue flame or like a green flame depending on how much boost you stored. But if you have the green flame or the blue flame or either one, as soon as you hit that, if you manage to not crash or spin out or get hit by anything,
said the name of the game.
You can actually keep that boost going on forever as long as you keep maintaining multiple drift boosts. So it's almost like someone played. Actually, no, this predates snaking. Is like someone really saw like the boost mechanic and just tried to revolve the game around it, because it really does feel like the game revolves around this boost mechanic and from the drifting. Which in turn makes it not super approachable. I feel like most people that come from Mario Kart probably won't find this game as fun, just because it's a little less chaotic and you might see yourself just like not catching up to other players as fast as you would in Mario Kart. But it definitely has a higher skill ceiling.
You're describing my experience with the game almost to a T. I mean, it definitely has a level of like not obtuseness, but there's a level. It's not as approachable, I'll say, like Minecraft Dungeons is for dungeon crawling. I mean, when I first booted the game, first of all, when I booted the game, for some inexplicable reason, it took me through so many like legalese things. Like I had to go through, I kid you not, 84 pages of privacy policy in terms of service legalese. And then once you get going, like I don't know if PS4 has a problem, but the load times are it does so slow. What are you saying?
It doesn't have quite a loot system, but I guess it does have like in-game purchases. It does have like a rotating stock of things. So I'm guessing they're trying to cover everything as far as
think about like any other game. You don't go through that many terms of services. Like it's crazy. But even beyond that, like are load times okay for you? Because on the Switch, like everything. I mean, that from track to track, from menu to menu.
They're definitely on the longer side. Not super long on the, because I was playing this on the PS4 Pro.
Okay.
So while they're definitely not as long as the Switch is, they're, from what I can tell, just from a bunch of comparison videos I've watched, it's definitely as long as it's definitely longer than it was on the PS4.
Even when picking your cart, like you can choose it and move on to the next screen before the render of the character and the cart you chose even like appear. Like you can move past
Smash Brothers can't seem to load a JPEG. Like,
that's true. Yeah, I mean, it ain't great across the board. But anyway, my point was, those were kind of side notes. Really, to your point, I think, like, as a primarily Mario Kart player, I did have a lot of opportunities to, shall we say, get tripped up by Crash Team Racing. I mean, like, perhaps the most in my face was that you accelerate with B for some reason. And the shoulder bumpers, opposed to the actual more comfortable triggers, are used for drifting and boosting. So already my muscle memory is all out of whack. It definitely took some adjusting. But I do think, and there was like a screen where you can go through the hints and everything, and it tells you, or like, not, they call it hints, but it's really gameplay instructions with voiceover. And they tell you some of the boosting, but they don't explain the daisy chaining combos you're describing. But I think there were like, as someone coming from Mario Kart 8, I definitely see there are some pros and cons when comparing it to Mario Kart 8. Like, I think the biggest pro for me is that CTR just seems to offer a lot more. I mean, we already talked about the adventure mode, but then that, that's on top of online and offline racing, a battle mode, pretty much everything that comes in standard Mario Kart, plus the stuff you're describing with the store and everything.
And stuff. Like,
and
this
that
one, at least for what it offers as a game, like, I feel like blows Mario Kart 8 out of the water. Just in terms of like what I feel Mario Kart 8 should have been. Because this game not only has like every track from CTR, they also have tracks from Nitro Racing, I guess like the sequel to it, and some tracks from some other game. And it's basically it's a Smash Ultimate of CTR. Yeah. Like every character you can imagine is there. They even added like the Trophy Girls as playable characters. They added like, I think Spyro is a character in this game, and like some characters from that universe.
But
it's bananas.
It is really nice to see that they didn't swap one new feature for another existing feature. I heard you should have said it's Wampa Fruit, but they just kept like stacking features, which is really nice. And also just like the depth of customization. Like I was impressed to see that you can unlock and choose different skins per character on top of the character and carts themselves. You could customize, like I was saying before, where the turbo gauge is. You like everything is kind of, there's even, and maybe you can explain this one to me, Angel, there's even custom driving styles you can assign independent of characters. So there's like turn, acceleration, balanced. From what I can tell, they seem to be separate sets of effects on your cart's handling and its abilities.
Yeah, it's pretty much like Sonic All-Stars Racing Transform. Okay. They also had that feature where it slightly tweaks the stats of your driver so that they still fall within their weight class or how they're supposed to be driving, but it'll lean more towards one of those, be it speed, handling, acceleration, or whatever.
Right. And that makes sense. Yeah. So do the carts have different abilities themselves as well, or different stats, or is it just through the driving styles?
I mean, they should all have, it should just be through the driving styles for the most part.
Yeah, so they just kind of divide up what Mario Kart's carts do in a different way, I guess.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, so those are all some great pros, like having that much content is really good. But on the flip side, like the con for me, for me at least personally, was it really took, and you sort of alluded to this, like you have to like learn it. It really took time to adapt to the handling of these carts. Like I feel like with Mario Kart, you pick up and go pretty quickly. But here, even after multiple cups, I felt like I was still kind of like off in my drifting, and it was costing me races since, as we discussed, like skill actually matters in this game. It definitely has that learning curve.
You don't want that.
No, you don't. No, but it, like, my point is, like, there's actually a learning curve. And, like, I imagine when you first got on PS4, there was a bit of a learning curve for you, too, at that point. Or did it just, like, click right away for you?
I mean, I went in knowing it was going to feel a lot different. So I don't think there was any kind of, like, oh, man, like, this feels weird. It was more like, all right, this is kind of how I remember it. Just got to get used to doing the multiple boosts again. Right, yeah, and knowing that now, I can't believe the game doesn't tell you that, because that, in my mind, would shake up so much of it. Like, I would be trying to boost, like, I was just trying to drift around corners and get boosts when doing so. If I knew I want to, like, constantly boost and time it with the jumps, which I know can give you a little boost if you do a stunt off them, like, I would have played it differently, I guess. I don't know. And it's not really a pro or con, but there is the one thing that's true of the genre, is that it's simply on some level inescapable to not look at CTR and compare it to like Nintendo's racers. I mean, we already talked about the Polynesian theme kind of matching Diddy Kong's vibe. But perhaps the most egregious example for me were some of the track designs really stuck out. I mean, to be fair, there are some really neat original ideas. There's one called Sewer Speedway that's like a giant half pipe you're barreling down with some like narrow tubes that connect in different parts. I thought that was really cool. But then you get to a track like Tiny Arena and it's straight up Wario Stadium from Mario Kart 64. Or like Cortex Castle is such a Bowser's Castle wannabe. Like it has a lot of sharp squared off turns. It has enemies that drop down from above to hit you. Like it feels so similar. Never mind another track whose name currently escapes me that straight up does snapping piranha plants along the sides that can grab you, except here they just look like Venus flytraps, not piranha plants. Like, it's not the end of the world. Obviously, games wear inspiration on their sleeves, especially when they're in the same genre, but just really stuck out to me compared to most that some of these tracks, really borrowed some ideas, which weirdly contrasting it with the gameplay also made it that much more clearer how much of a different driving experience they're trying to make out of it, because you're in these tracks that feel so familiar or feel like kind of riffs or knockoffs, but the mechanics feel so different. So it's not really a pro or con, it's just kind of an observation I have when playing it, I guess. But like, I don't know. Yeah, and I appreciate that, like, they set out to make something different, gameplay mechanic wise, and they did seem to achieve it. It just, for me at least, I think my assessment is it didn't fully click. Like, maybe now that I know the boosting thing, I'll give it another go. The trial lasts for, I think, 2 more days, so I can give it another shot. But yeah, I would give it another try, but I think I don't know if it'll make that much of a difference, because I feel like people that like Mario Kart like it for its specific form of handling and chaos. I feel like people that would prefer CTR are those that are playing Mario Kart and aren't really satisfied with the randomness of it and just want something a little more... Well, so, I guess I don't want to say competitive, but because Mario Kart can be competitive. Actually, yeah, that is a good. Because Mario Kart,
that's a fair one. Mario Kart,
like I've come to learn. Yeah, you're just supposed to have fun and just enjoy your time. It's not really meant to be this like hardcore competitive game. This one, I feel, lends itself much more to that.
I like the patronizing tone you took when describing how you're just supposed to have fun. All right. Well, here's a question then, and let me ask you this question. So, if you had to choose, what would you say your all-time favorite kart racing game is?
Diddy Kong Racing.
Oh, interesting. Okay, and what makes you say that?
Because I feel it has a nice balance between those two games, Mario Kart and CTR.
Fair.
Like that one, I do like that. I think the item mechanic is a lot more interesting in Diddy Kong Racing. I love that you can just upgrade it. Like you get rewarded for committing on to not using your item and just waiting until you get the 3 balloons, you can get the maximum amount. There are some nuances to drifting that aren't ever taught to you. You just kind of have to figure it out. In Diddy Kong Racing as well, like letting go of actually that's not even, it's more of a boost thing, but letting go of the acceleration when you're going over a boost pad actually gives you a much bigger boost than you would if you're just holding A normally, as you normally would, but they never tell you that. In fact, that's like one of the only ways you can even beat with Pig initially, otherwise he'll just keep passing you. So the fact that we managed to beat him without using that technique is just amazing. But
way to toot your own horn at the end there.
But yeah. Oh no. Well, no, I said with we.
I know.
It kind of includes like my brother and my sister because I played it with them. But yeah, it makes a big difference. And
right.
Also, I just love the variety of just using the hovercraft and the airplane, which I did have a lot of fun using. Yeah, and the bosses. A lot of things are just click more with me in that game.
Right.
It's not as intensive. I feel like if I wasn't satisfied with Diddy Kong Racing, then I would probably still go to CTR, or I would go to CTR after.
The one thing I noticed about Diddy Kong back in the day, and even CTR now, is they do seem a little slower than Mario Kart. Like CTR on Switch runs at 30 frames, Mario Kart's at 60, and you kind of notice it. Like it does seem a little slower. But that's not necessarily a nice knock against it, just one thing they have in common I picked up on. And I think for that reason, on some level, the elements of chaos, the speed, the kind of looser gameplay, the more arcadey, I guess you could say, gameplay, I've always leaned more towards the Mario Karts myself. It's tricky. If I had to pick an all-time favorite one, I mean, if I ask you a question, I should be able to answer it myself, right? I'm thinking SSX Tricky is a great game, by the way. Side note, because you said that. But it's probably Mario Kart DS or Mario Kart 8. I think 8's the stronger...
DS?
Let me explain. I think 8's the stronger actual game of the two. It doesn't have everything it could, but it has a lot. It has the most tracks, has the most, most characters, it has the most customization in a Mario Kart. Like, it's very strong. But Mario Kart DS was kind of like the right game at the right time. Like, the first one online. I played a lot of it online in high school with a friend or two. Mainly one friend. One friend. It was just one friend. But yeah, like it really and they had like the little, you can customize your cart with your little emblem, and then you had that online, and like it was just it really clicked with me in that moment. So I think for nostalgia, personal preference, Mario Kart DS. But if Mario Kart's my favorite series, the best one of them is hands down 8. Even if the gravity thing was kind of not needed. It's just you're driving upside down. Like, it doesn't actually change anything.
I mean, it's definitely the best Mario Kart.
Yeah, exactly.
But definitely not my favorite kart racer.
Right.
Because, DS... I don't know, I guess I would still have more nostalgia for Diddy Kong Racing. But, DS is great. Snaking, yeah, everyone loves snaking.
Yeah, snaking was...
I like snaking, but, like, I feel like the problem with snaking is that it almost felt... It pretty much turned it into CTR in my eyes, like, at that point. Because it became a game much more about like drift control, except this one it kind of took, I guess the constant drift boost from CTR, and it just kind of put them on steroids. I feel like in a negative way,
and in an unplanned way.
That played the game would probably wait. What?
I was gonna say in an unplanned way. I don't think Nintendo anticipated snaking being what it was at all.
Oh,
like it was the meta that kind of. Like the fan community that kind of took it off and made it a thing, or took off with it and made it a thing.
But yeah, it was a fun technique to use. At first, but ultimately it boils down to who has the most like endurance in their thumb.
Yeah,
because you will like wreck your thumb doing that, just like shimming it back and forth nonstop the entire race. And after a while, that just doesn't really become as fun. It's like I don't want to have to like kill my thumb in order to win a race.
I never really did much snaking I like when my friend and I played online, we didn't really snake when we played against each other.
If it wasn't for snaking, we probably wouldn't have.
But what are you gonna say?
Yeah, I mean, like as much as like I'm kind of like talking down on snaking now, if it wasn't for snaking, we probably wouldn't have played that game as much as we did. But looking back at it, it definitely wasn't as good of a thing as I feel people think it was. I think on Crash Team Racing, at least, even if it does have like a more complex, not as intuitive drift mechanic, those that put the time into learning, I think, will get really, really rewarded.
Right. Yeah, I think it goes back to what you're saying at the top, that, you know, it's like Smash, where you train and then you learn, and it becomes a better game as a result for you in general. This does open the door to a broader question, though. So if Crash and Mario and even Sonic, you mentioned Sonic All-Stars Racing, you know, literally a character who runs fast, if they can all have their own racing games, like it's no big deal, like what other spin-offs of established IPs could be cool to see? I mean, obviously not every single game needs a kart racer, but say you spin off any franchise, or say you can spin off a franchise, what would you want it to be? Like, what is your dream spin-off, or what franchise do you think is ripe for an opportunity that hasn't been taken yet? If you had to pick a couple or one.
Oof, ripe for an opportunity. I mean, I feel like a lot of the ones that I would rather say, like, the opportunities kind of came and went.
Okay, let me rephrase. Which one would you like to see? Never mind the ripe for an opportunity. You're right, because timing's important. We'll get to timing in a few minutes, I suspect. But as we talk this through, I'm guessing. But yeah, I mean, if you could pick something.
The obvious answer that I think, like, literally anyone with, like, a pulse would say is Rhythm Heaven Racers. I mean,
wait, what?
I don't know how Rhythm Heaven Racers. I don't know how Nintendo can do it, but I feel only they can somehow just create like a party multiplayer racing game that is somehow still tied to the rhythm. I guess the best way to do it would be that every single course has obstacles that are set to the rhythm of the track's music, and you kind of have to dodge them with your own controls, or somehow. Actually, I guess it would have to incorporate item usage. Maybe all the items are synced to the music of the track, which means that in some stages, like where the tempo is a lot higher, the items are maybe a little easier to use or faster to use or tougher to use. I don't know, but I think that'd be really cool.
So so is it more?
Nintendo would have to figure out.
You're imagining you're like on your
Karate Joe would be like driving on a TV cart or something. Like no customizable carts. Everyone just has their own cart. That's like themed to them.
But are you thinking like you're all on your own individual track, and then you throw items at each other that will affect how you progress on the track, almost like a multiplayer Guitar Hero?
Oh no! You're
like
on
you're
the same
actually
track.
driving.
You're all on the same track, Mario Kart style.
Okay. I already see the commercial.
Yeah,
I mean, they got Beyonce for the original Rhythm Heaven, now expanded to her whole family for the racing game, the multiplayer one. You get, you know, Solange and Blue Ivy and Jay-Z. I imagine Jay-Z would pick Jimmy T because they're both just that cool. Yeah, I see the commercial more than I see the game, but that's an interesting idea.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely my more like out there. I would love to see it just because I just want to see something Rhythm Heaven related.
Yeah,
but I mean if anything, I would have just loved to see more out of the Metroid Prime Hunter series. We just got one on the DS. I love the designs and the other characters, like from Candon to Silex to Tracer, even Weevil. He's like part of the least memorable, but.
He's for sure the least memorable.
He was part of that group.
He's just like a weird, like slugworm looking dude. Like he's not memorable. He looks like one of those. What are they called? Ooh. Like a sea cucumber.
Considering you even got the wrong character, I guess that does make him even less memorable.
No.
At least remember
Isn't Weevil the purple guy that looks kind of like a sea cucumber's face?
No.
What am I thinking of?
Maybe. No, definitely not.
I'm looking it up.
Candon is the electric one that turns into a slug. Weevil is like the green halo looking dude that puts his body in his morph ball mode. Tracer's like some red spider thing. Silex is like some ice.
Oh, Silex, he's the purple one, and he has a big arm that looks like a stylus because he's Silex. Yeah. That's right.
No, Tracer is the one that has a hand that's literally a stylus because he's the sniper.
Wow, I'm way off.
Silex has like an arm that looks like a shock coil. He like shoots electricity at people.
Yes. I pulled up a list. By the way, out of habit, I started typing Weevil into Google, and I immediately started typing Pokemon next to it instead of Metroid. Like I just muscle memory.
Yeah, look at Weevil's design. He's
he is 100% rejected Halo character.
Yeah, But point is, like, that game, like, the multiplayer was really fun. It was fun to play as different hunters, explore different types of morph ball. This kind of cool thing, like, oh, the morph ball ability extends to more than just Samus. That's kind of interesting in this universe. I just want to see more of it. I want to see, like, a console version of it. I feel like this could have been, like, Nintendo's premier, like, first-person shooting, I don't know, I guess, like, game, like, to almost complement Splatoon. Like, yeah, Splatoon that's kind of, like, I guess it has age appeal for everybody. You know, it appeals to everybody, super competitive. But I feel like I want one where the aim is to actually kill others. Don't take that out of context. But
I totally will.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it. I get what you're saying.
I feel like deserved more love.
Well, I feel like they sort of tried to expand hunters not in a direct way, but like Metroid Prime Federation Force sort of. It was like a spin-off of a spin-off. Like, it was like, people love first-person shooter Metroid Hunters, so what if we...
If they really wanted to, they could have made... Federation Force could have been, like, you playing as those other hunters, maybe doing some other stuff.
That's what was weird about it, yeah.
Federation people.
Yeah, and
I mean, Silex does appear in that game.
He does.
There is someone from the same species as Noxus that appears in Metroid Prime 3. So they did acknowledge those characters going forward. I mean, Silex, again, appears in Metroid Prime 3. But
the
other ones just kind of fell to the wayside.
Well, it felt like Hunters was chasing.
Did they not make it? I mean, who made it? Like,
who made what?
Trying to figure out
Hunters?
Who made this game.
It was made by NST, Nintendo Software Technologies, up at NOA. The same people that went on to make such hits as what'd they make? The Mario vs. Donkey Kong games. They also made Wave Race Blue Storm.
Oh, so it was literally made by Nintendo in-house.
It was American Nintendo at that. But yeah, and it feels like Hunters, like, to me, these shooter Metroids are chasing the trends, right? So like Hunters was going after Halo and all those of that era. And then it feels like Federation Force, like, squad
on the DS.
Yeah. And then it's like, squad shooters are popular. What's a DS squad shooter gonna be? Federation Force. And I think, like, honestly, on paper, Federation Force was a good idea, excluding that it was just generic Federation guys. But like, the idea of some sort of Force Swords, Triforce Heroes type of experience overlaid with Metroid is a cool concept. And I remember, like, they even did some stuff like where
it is, but at least put it on the console.
Yeah. And they had some interesting, and
it looked way better.
And they had interesting ideas in it too. Like, even if it didn't look as good, like, I thought the chip, I think they called them chips. Like, you could pick up chips, like mod your suit to do different things. There's like a different way of doing the upgrade system for Metroid, but let you basically riff on the traditional, like, role or like player role or class system that a lot of squad shooters have. Like, I thought that was kind of cool, but I do get to your point. It's not what you're describing. Like, it's not a direct shooter.
Remember Blast Ball?
Yeah.
Because we saw Rocket League and we're like, hey, let's do that.
Yeah, seriously.
But not as fun.
No. Yeah, that was quite a thud when it landed. That did not, or not.
It's funny how they revealed that.
Yeah, that was.
Like, Blast Ball? What is that?
Yeah, that was something. But you know, I honestly
Although it did seem like a lot of people were catching on that it was a Metroid-related thing.
Oh yeah, we called it when we were sitting there. Because we were there. It was at the Nintendo World Championship, and I think we leaned over to each other like, that is Metroid. It has to be. But I think I think more so to your point than it not being on console, I think the biggest pitfall for Federation Force, and this is true of really any spin-off, and I knew this would come up, I just wasn't sure when, is that timing matters. Like, if you look at when Federation Force was announced, like, the backlash was so strong because it was 7 years after the other not very well received Metroid, Other M. So for them to go, hey, here's Metroid, but again, not what you want, definitely, you know, that stung for fans. And I remember people did not take it well. And I feel like the thing about any spinoff is, like, you know, Nintendo's slowly learning how to navigate it, but it's really about time. Because, like, even when Hey Pikmin was announced and released for 3DS, it didn't have, like, the backlash of Federation Force, but it certainly didn't have the buzz of a new Pikmin. Because, again, it was Nintendo sort of leaving a franchise in a weird funk and then returning to it in a way that fans didn't want. In this case, you know, it was Pikmin 3, which overwhelmingly the response seemed to have been, this was too short of a game. So they wait 4 years and then go, okay, Pikmin's back as a side-scroller. That's kind of like Kirby Mass Attack. Who's in? And, you know, again, it wasn't quite what fans wanted, and it came out right on the heels of Chibi Robo Zip Blast.
People knew Pikmin 4 was coming, and I guess...
Yeah, especially because sort of. They, like, said maybe it's coming, and then they're like, here, like, Miyamoto confirmed it.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Maybe this was Pikmin 4.
Miyamoto's alluded in multiple interviews that it's not Pikmin 4, but they've never outright shown Pikmin 4, so it's easy to assume it's Pikmin 4. And then, it came on the heels of Chibi Robo Ziplash, which also was a side-scroller spin-off of a franchise where fans wanted one thing and Nintendo didn't deliver on that. So it's just interesting, like, you were saying this when I was saying what's right for, it really matters
hurts
when.
more when, like, you're spinning off a franchise that isn't getting mainstay sequels, like Chibi Robo. It pretty much went spin-off after spin-off after spin-off, and we're just like, just give us normal so that we can at least enjoy these spin-offs while knowing that we're still going to get more of what we actually like. Instead of, being a lot of... like Kirby, like, a new normal traditional Kirby game is inevitable.
So is a spin-off.
Whether you like it or not. But we get so many spin-offs of Kirby that, like, no one really minds that they get so experimental with it. If anything, it's like Kirby's other identity.
Oh, I love how experimental they
really
get.
Weird games.
Yeah, and they're actually, to that point, HAL has teased that they're going to have a new Kirby game this year in their, like, New Year's message. They're talking about how Kirby, they're going to have, like, games and merch and the Kirby Cafe in Japan. So there you go. But no, it's interesting though, because if you, like, in terms of the timing, like, with Pikmin now, you could see Nintendo sort of kind of backpedaling and learning from their mistake.
Sounds like a service.
What?
Pikmin Now.
Oh, Pikmin Now. Yeah, it's a new streaming service. It's a new delivery service for Pikmin to show up at your door. But, no, like, you can kind of see the backpedaling. Like, Nintendo is learning, because Pikmin 3 Deluxe, like, they went back to what fans wanted and what sold well. And what I find kind of interesting about it is they're trying to broaden the audience, not by diluting the game, not by doing a spin-off, not by simplifying it into a side score. Instead, they're doing it through the marketing now. So it turns out, Nintendo's data has showed that a lot of folks who picked up Animal Crossing New Horizons with the Switch, went on with their Switches, I guess I should say, went on to buy Pikmin 3. Or at least enough people did that, and Nintendo's president, Shintaro Furukawa, pointed it out during the Q&A of their last financial briefing back in, like, late October, early November. And that is a little odd. I'm not sure what the through line is there, but lo and behold, now, not coincidentally, Nintendo of America put out a new video just the other day called Why I Play Pikmin 3 Deluxe, in which they have multiple influencers discussing the game with some Animal Crossing angles, like some familiar wording and verbiage of how you describe Animal Crossing, like how it's a relaxing game and it lets you escape to a different world, that sort of thing. Which, first of all, I don't know if I would call Pikmin relaxing. That seems like a bit of a misnomer.
No, it's definitely the opposite. I feel like it's never relaxing. It's always more stressful than anything. I guess it depends on how you play Pikmin, but typically I don't want any of the Pikmin to die.
The same, yeah. I don't know how anything can be relaxing where there's little ghosts and whimpers happening every 10 seconds when your Pikmin die. But yeah, the timing of the video, like right after Christmas, right when a bunch of folks got Animal Crossing, and the framing of it in the same sort of like lingo as New Horizons, like definitely not a coincidence. And it seems like this is sort of Nintendo's new like audience expansion trick for Pikmin to grow the franchise, instead of like, well, let's try Pikmin in a different lane. It's just, well, let's do what we know works for Pikmin and just present it differently to people. And maybe that, maybe that will lead to Pikmin 4 and then we'll get a proper Pikmin 4, and that's kind of nice. And it could work, and it's kind of Nintendo learning from the Federation Force and Hey Pikmin mistake. But the other way they learned is kind of what you sort of were saying, well, they already announced Pikmin 4. More bluntly, do you remember how not a big deal Age of Calamity was? Like, it was announced and it was released and no one's like, where's my real Zelda? Because they announced Breath of the Wild 2 first. Which kind of instantly wipes away anyone saying, where's their quote-unquote real Zelda? Like, hey, it's already coming. You know it's coming. And this seems like it's a new sort of spin-off strategy that Nintendo's pretty keen on. Doug Bowser did an interview with Nintendo. He's Nintendo America's president. He did an interview with Polygon right before the holidays. And he said that, the timing of any game, spin-off or otherwise, is of course up to the developers. But he certainly didn't hide the fact that he's a fan of the kind of Breath of the Wild 2 opening the door for Age of Calamity and letting them both kind of thrive without cannibalizing or upsetting anyone. Like the idea that a AAA main game, a main new entry, can be preceded with some sort of smaller project was something that he's like, yeah, it's good for Zelda. Yeah, it's great. And, he didn't outright say that's what they're going to do, but he also didn't outright, like, he kind of was like nudging it and like, yeah, we want to do this more. And I think that if you look at like the timeline from Federation Force and how Metroid Prime 4 came after that, to now how you have Age of Calamity coming after Breath of the Wild 2 and announcement cycles like that, I think hopefully they've kind of learned their lesson from spin-offs and how to properly do them. We'll see, but it's promising at least. And actually, the Polygon interview for everyone,
it shouldn't be that hard to figure out. I mean,
yeah,
just look at the Fast and Furious franchise. They knew to wait until we had at least like 6 or 7
or 9
with Hobbs and Shaw
or 9.
Actually, I take that back. After 2, they did Tokyo Drift, which I think was a spinoff.
No, it's technically number 3. They just swapped out most of the cast. So that would be an example of they Federation
Tokyo Drift
forced.
number 3, yeah.
Yeah, but people love Tokyo Drift now, and they've integrated that cast back into the main games. In other words, Nintendo, if you want to do a Metroid Prime Hunters on Switch, you can integrate some stuff back in, or make it a multiplayer mode of Metroid Prime 4. Just saying, just think big. Think Vin Diesel. Think how Vin Diesel thinks. He produces Fast and Furious. But real quick aside, the interview with Doug Bowser on Polygon, if anyone's curious, he touches on Switch Pro rumors, Joy-Con drift, how Nintendo handled the early days of the pandemic. It's all, in typical corporate speak where he bobs and weaves around the questions like any good Nintendo exec would, but it is nice to see a Nintendo person addressing these things. So we'll link in the blog post for anyone who wants to check out the interview. Nothing new, no like breaking news in there, but it's kind of nice just to see him pop up and talk about like how, even things like Pikmin 3, it sounds like got delayed because of COVID, and they're trying to like figure out how to pace things around evergreens. And so it's kind of interesting if you're into that side of things. But I feel like I went on a tangent.
It's interesting sometimes.
Yeah. And if you sometimes. But to get back to the more interesting like spin-off conversation, I think if you remove the issue of timing or fan demands for proper sequels, there are a lot of interesting opportunities of things to do with spin-offs. Like one I was thinking about, which could be kind of cool, is like you mentioned a proper Metroid sequel. I think it would be cool if they sort of went, or not proper Metroid sequel, proper Metroid Prime Hunters sequel. I think it'd be cool if they did a Captain Falcon origin game. Maybe like an action game made by Platinum Games or something. Like, I mean, the material's all there already. We see Captain Falcon out of his car showing his moves in Smash.
Eating ramen.
Yeah, exactly. Really, really going to town on that ramen. The anime GP Legend.
Yeah, hassling some of the Fire Emblem characters in that one trailer.
Yeah, I mean, the dude lived a life. He has lived a life, and I want to know what that life is. Because even in the anime GP Legend, like, they started to dive deeper into some of the F-Zero lore, but they didn't go too far, but there's enough material there. I mean, there are 50-ish racers in F-Zero. Like, they can build a world out of this. And I think like someone like Platinum, like we know thanks to Astral Chain, Platinum is very capable of like an anime-ish style action game and a type of setting that's perfect for F-Zero. In fact, like the opening of Astral Chain, you're on a bike going through a tunnel. So like, that's the game basically develops itself. Like, it's easy enough. But like, seriously, if you don't really think about F-Zero for its story, but I mean, 50 characters, and there's cutscenes even in like F-Zero GX. Like it's just flesh it out. I mean, there's
a lot of lore there.
It's all right there, and I mean, we know they're never gonna make a proper GX sequel. That's not gonna happen. Even though, actually, did you see the other day the producer of GX, Toshihiro, I think his name is Nagoshi, something like that. Now he makes the Yakuza games. He's the producer of that, but he was telling Red Bull France, maybe one of the European Red Bulls, that has basically an affinity for F-Zero and would be open to making another GX if Nintendo lets him. Of course they won't, but Nintendo does love Platinum Games, and they've given them the keys to other kingdoms. We talked about Star Fox Zero earlier, so I don't know. I'm just saying, Captain Falcon origin game could happen. Come on, Platinum.
I mean, that sounds pretty cool.
It would be cool. I feel like it'd be cool.
I feel like that would do well. I mean, even if people would be upset for the same reason we talked about earlier, of there having not been any F-Zero games in a long time, because it's Captain Falcon, I could definitely see it still being successful.
I mean, they literally revived Kid Icarus off Pit in Smash. They could do a Captain Falcon origin game off Captain Falcon in Smash. Like, it's fine.
It's just fatter, because it's like, we're talking about like a GameCube era character versus like someone that was like from Game Boy and
yeah, it's super sad.
Although I would love to see, with that in mind, I just want more lore from the ARMS universe and just like have that play out however they want. It doesn't even have to be like the same ARMS fighting game. Preferably not.
ARMS would make a cool Streets of Rage 2D beat 'em up spin-off mini game, like a shorter game, like you pick your different characters, they have different ARMS abilities.
Yeah, could even be like an interesting if they made it like a hybrid between a beat 'em up and a platformer. Because I feel like you could use those arms in interesting ways to maneuver across like a level or
Oh yeah,
something.
it's like full on Bionic
But
Commando, basically. Yeah. Like the
yeah,
arm
basically, yeah.
mechanics. Yeah, that'd be cool. And that's another world that they built so much lore. I remember last episode you talked about the canceled comic book for Arms, or not canceled, but the one that never materialized. Like there's so much lore, and they spent so much on the world building that they could flesh it out with something. That I'd be okay with that. That could be cool.
Yeah,
I think
me
another
too. Me too.
kind of interesting one would be so I remember I was saying in the last QC, bear with me here, it gets ridiculous, but bear with me. I remember I was saying in the last QC that I really like What Remains of Edith Finch, and if it was out in 2020 it would have been my game of the year here on the Nintendo podcast, but because we had to talk about games that came out in 2020 it wasn't. But I was trying to think like what could Nintendo do in that realm of sort of the more linear, story driven. It's still interactive, but like definitely more of a interactive movie and less of a game. Like what could they do with an existing franchise that would be kind of interesting? And then this came up. What if they took the idea of What Remains of Edith Finch, where you learn about a family's history and how things came to be, and you learn like the deep dark secrets, and they apply it to the Tom Nook family, right? Like you go
Sounds
through
amazing.
Tom Nook's life, you learn about his past loves, you learn about how like Timmy and Tommy's childhood beyond when they run a store. They can intertwine other Animal Crossing characters. Like we don't know why Leaf doesn't have some sort of arrangement to sell his plants in Nook stores if Nook stores already sell seeds. Like it's not that much further to just have Leaf's
I
products
mean,
there.
apparently Nook also has a history with the Sable sisters.
He
since, like,
does, and
childhood.
yes, and not only
Like,
that, but okay, so he has that history with the.
it's like implied that there were a couple at some point, or I don't know.
Yeah, like
But
what's that about? Or similarly, like why, if they have this long relationship, does he not help them in parts of the world where they can't go manually be there with their store? Why does he not provide them with the infrastructure to distribute their clothes through his stores? Why does Kix only sell his shoes how he sells his shoes and not through the Nook store? Like there are so many. What's the relationship between KK Slider and him? What's the relationship between Isabel and him? Like, there's so many things they could do, and they could kind of do it because of Tom Nook's, like, mafioso, like, reputation. It would be kind of funny if they did as kind of like this, like, detective story, like, film noir type of thing, but with the gameplay of What Remains of Edith Finch. Like, I think it could be kind of cool. Like, I know it sounds absolutely bonkers, and it's never gonna happen, but I just love the idea of, like, learning how Tom Nook
it
came
sounds
to
like
be.
something that someone would make on their own spare time, like something we would just find on the internet.
Yeah.
Like I would love to see, like, I don't know who you'd be playing as. Probably someone that doesn't know Tom Nook and has to like discover all this on their own, or maybe one of Timmy or Tawny's like grandchildren. So it's just like many generations later.
Mm-hmm.
But I just imagine them like walking through a empty house, and you just see like pictures of like Tom Nook in his youth, and he's like all wide-eyed and happy. And then as you see like when he's getting older and older, like the upper eyelid like slowly starts to close more and more until literally all you ever see is just that, like, I guess that tired expression that he just always has. Yeah, I'm into this, but I've been through so much of this already. But let's go.
Yeah, like, here's my thing about spin-offs. If you're going to go in a different direction, like, lean all the way in. And as someone who loves weird Nintendo, like, what a great chance something like this would be to get weird. And, if it doesn't work, hey, it's not a mainline game, it's fine. But you're still going to sell a couple 100,000 copies because Animal Crossing is the hottest thing ever right now. But, like, seriously, I love weird riffs on stuff. Like, the other week, I don't know if you saw a story that popped up about the Work Boy. Did you see that thing? It's, I guess back at, like, CES... Yeah, like at CES 1992, a Game Boy accessory was announced by Nintendo that was actually a full-on workstation for the Game Boy. It came with a keyboard, it had 12 apps that displayed on the Game Boy screen. You could sit with your Game Boy to like translate between languages or edit databases or like manage an address book, right, with a word processor. Literally everything a PDA would do in later years, you could do on your Game Boy with an unwieldy keyboard. And I guess, so there were only like 2 prototypes made. The Did You Know Gaming channel somehow got hold of one of the prototypes, like the YouTube channel, and thanks to the Nintendo Giga Leak that happened last year, they were able to get a ROM of the software. But I guess this thing never came out because the price of RAM went up too high in Japan, and then the factory where it was going to be made exploded or something. it's a crazy story, but either way, like the product frankly makes no sense. It would have cost the same price as the Game Boy itself. You would have needed to carry a keyboard around with your Game Boy everywhere, but it's such a weird spin-off of the core Game Boy concept. I just love it, and that's why I want the Nook family story. It's so weird. It really doesn't make sense for what Animal Crossing is. It's just a cheery, happy game, but like I just really want them to do it. It's just so out there. So that I don't think I could top that spin-off wish. I don't know if you have any others, but that's my peak. I'm peaking very early in 2021.
The only other thing I could think of is just like seeing like a game where you actually do bounty hunting missions as Samus. Like there are very few instances of that in the Metroid series. Like I only give one mission to like get the last Metroid, but for the most part, Samus is always just surviving. Like her ship gets destroyed, she has to survive. I just want to see her like actually going through like finding out, like, I don't know, getting the bounty, going through the investigation phase of figuring out where they're located, maybe traveling between like different star systems, and then just picking up clues and then, you know, eventually confronting them, however that may be. And that could always be different because I'm sure not everyone is going to end up in a shootout. I don't know. It'd just be really cool to see that side of Samus, and maybe gives us time to actually like learn about her and how she works.
It almost retcons.
Might be better than how Metroid Other M tried.
Well, that's what I was about to say. Is it almost seems like it retcon what Other M was trying to do, because I feel like the narrative and the like personal side and how she talked in Other M was very like kind of detective film noir story. You know,
just go all in.
Just lean in.
On the way.
Yeah. I that could be cool. So how would the gameplay be? Were you thinking like a Phoenix Wright or like a Trace Memory, Another Code, that sort of thing? Like where you're just sort of walking in third person,
bit of everything. Like I would say, like overworld, not even overworld, but like I would say, like for the most part, it'll control like in third person. Actually, yeah, more like kind of like LA Noire, because that is kind of like if Phoenix Wright was a
3D
third
game.
person,
like a 3D game in a real world,
a third person like open world game, because you literally do have investigation modes. You pick up items, just obviously futurize it, make it more relevant to Metroid. But, you know, talk to witnesses or talk to people, see if they're lying, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, it doesn't have to go that deep, but, you know, Samus has her own ways to investigate things. Like, oh, this area looks suspicious, don't really see anything wrong with it. Boom, turn on X-ray visor. Oh, I see there's, like, a secret cellar there. Now I could actually, like, just, like, open that hatch. Because, you know, or maybe you're looking for someone that's hiding in a crowd of, like, robots or something. Or, I don't know, maybe you're looking for something specific. You use your heat visor. Oh, this one actually has like a beating heart, or there's like the heat signature. It's over there. You know, there's like a lot of cool things it could do. When you're, especially, I just imagine like chase sequences. That would be awesome. You're pretty much playing hide and seek with these like bounties, because I mean, they're not gonna not be afraid of Samus. Samus, it's like probably like infamous and super destructive with how many plants she's blown up and like ungodly creatures like she's destroyed. So yeah, it'd be an interesting game of like mouse and like super cat.
Well, it's funny because the more you describe it, the more I'm like, oh, so basically like make the Mandalorian a video game starring Samus. Like you go planet to planet, you're trying to find things. Sometimes there's action, sometimes there's not, sometimes there's mystery. Like that could work. I could get into that. That'd be cool. Yeah. But
maybe they're already working on it. That one I feel, compared to my other one, feels like the most plausible one.
Yeah, I think that's more plausible. That's certainly more plausible than What Remains of Tom Nook. Or whatever it'd be called. But yeah, I think these would be cool, and absolutely none of them will ever happen. But it'd be cool. It'd be cool. But maybe we should ground ourselves a little before we wrap up the show here with things that can be achieved and will be achieved. One thing we wanted to do, I know we talked about before we started recording, one thing we were thinking of doing is Switch New Year's resolutions. Like it's a new year. There's, you know, what goal are we going to set for our Switch playing in 2021? This is kind of like, you know, we gotta do something New Year's related for the episode. So we can't just talk about old and made up stuff. So we gotta end with some actual New Year's stuff. So, should I go first? Do you want to go first? I guess I go first. I'll go first. Or do you want to go first?
Just 50%, but I mean, if we're just talking like Switch, like, Switch resolutions. I don't know why I stumbled on that so hard.
It's okay.
Switch resolutions. It would Just Switch would probably be to clear my backlog. Because luckily on the Switch itself, it isn't that big, but there is one. And I just mean I for the most part, unless like I'm really in love with the game, I'm completely fine just beating it normally without going back and 100%ing it. Which is, like I think like Mario Odyssey was like the last time that I 100% of the game that I wasn't completely in love with. Like if it wasn't for the sense of obligation, I wouldn't have 100% of that game for sure. I would have just straight up beaten it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like I know for a fact, like I have Dragon Quest 11 to get through, and while I'm really enjoying that game, yeah, there's no way I'm gonna try to 100% that game. I think I could use those extra 100 hours to beat everything else I'm interested in. But
right,
yeah, just go back through all the games that I haven't beaten, which hopefully aren't too many, and that way I could put those in the past and look towards newer things.
That's a good one. Mine's the polar opposite. I'm gonna expand my backlog even more, I think. Because for me, so I should set the stage here. Mine is I want to play more non-Nintendo games on Switch. And the reason I say that is, it's twofold. We on the show talk about a lot of third-party games, and I was like, oh, I should check that out, or oh, that'd be cool, or I'll look at that, and I like never follow through on buying them. Like I remember BioShock Collection, and I was like, oh, I can finally play BioShock, and I have not bought. It was $15 the other day, and I didn't buy it.
Play the first one.
I know, and it was only $15 for all three.
Would you kindly play the first
Christmas?
one?
I will. That's my resolution, is to start playing more third-party games. But the thing that really pushed me to do it, besides that, I mentioned games and don't actually necessarily follow through with a lot of them, is Nintendo's Switch year in review came out. I think everyone that has a Switch, everyone listening probably got theirs. You go to the website, it spits out some facts about how many hours you put in, what type of games you play, and then it ranks you as what type of gamer you are. And there were a lot of people that were like, oh, I'm a core gamer, I play all the games. Like I think you got that. Like I think everyone we know got
the
that.
Bowser.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then there's
pretty much anyone that likes games got that.
Yeah, and then there's also one, if you only bought a Switch for Animal Crossing, there's one like, oh, you're a camp enthusiast or something like that. And they have these different ones. And then I got, you're a Nintendo fan. And I'm like, yeah. And it's like, hey, you really like Nintendo, and you basically only play Nintendo. So thanks for supporting Nintendo. And I'm like, oh God, is it that much? And granted, 2 of my top 5 games were not Nintendo. It was Torchlight with you guys, and it was, I think Minecraft slipped in at the end there. But, or no, Rocket League. It was Rocket League. But nonetheless, Nintendo literally shouted at me like, hey, you only buy our games. And then I turn around the podcast and go, look at all these cool third-party games. How come we don't have more third-party support? I'm the problem. So in 2021, I'm going to make it a point to check out some other experiences. Cause even top of the show, we were talking about, the Miyamoto interview with the New Yorker, and he was talking about Nintendo doesn't make emotionally heavy games. They want to make warm experiences. And I'm like, yeah, but there's a lot of cool, more emotionally heavy games out there that I just don't play because Nintendo doesn't make them. So I'm going to try and play more third-party games on Switch in 2021. It was like a weird wake-up call when I got that Switch year in review. And I think I'm on the right track. We only talked about in-depth third-party games today. Crash and Minecraft. So I'm starting strong. But yeah, that's definitely my goal this year. And as soon as I see BioShock drop down in price again, I can't believe I missed it for $15. All 3 of them. I'm going to have to dip in on that and, just go from there. But yeah, so that's my resolution. I'm going to make the backlog even worse, but I'm going to experience more games from more publishers, because right now it's pretty much Nintendo and indies for me. So, yeah, so I'm looking forward to broadening those horizons. Yeah.
Well, looking forward to seeing what else you can... Well, hoping to see if you find anything that compels you to beat it.
Well, I guess we will see. I'm still crossing my fingers for an Edith Finch type of experience again. And that's a third-party game. And to be fair, anything Annapurna puts out, I'll probably get. I love the games they publish, so.
I would also say you should add to your resolution to start or continue...
Paper Mario.
Paper Mario.
Yes, I actually, funny enough,
it, but I just realized that, hey, no, this guy needs to make this part of his resolution.
You know what's funny is, when we were, little inside baseball.
Make that the only Nintendo game you play.
Little inside baseball for everyone listening at home. Angel and I went over what the topics will be this episode, and we talked about resolutions, and my first thought was, I should say Paper Mario. But then I was like, no, he's going to be like, I can't believe that's be a New Year's resolution. I thought you're doing it because for friends, et cetera, et cetera. So I purposely didn't, only for you to now say it. So I'm coming full circle.
Because I felt like you were giving yourself an out to not do it.
No, I'll do it. You know what? I will this week start back up. This week. By Quarantine Chronicles, I will have progress. So
I'm starting to forget where I was. The whole point is
that's me with every game, man. I don't know where I am in anything. Yeah, so that's the
yeah. Also, like that being said, like I guess it depends on how much time it takes you to catch up to our next like milestone in Paper Mario, because I'm still waiting for you to catch up to this one. I guess I may not try to actually 100% this game and also just beat it at this point, just so we can beat it.
I will say Nintendo's very generous in having nothing on their release schedule besides Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury in February next month. So there's like solid 6 weeks of no new games. So probably okay. I might be able to do it. But yeah, I guess we'll leave it there. Well, who knows? That could all get blown up. So next episode, we'll be back on the 17th of January, and we'll have whatever news Nintendo and its partners decide to kick off the year with. I mean, sometimes they do a direct in early January, in like mid-January. Sometimes they don't. So obviously everything's out of whack with COVID. So we will see, but we'll have something for you next episode. And of course, in the interim, there's also Quarantine Chronicles this coming weekend. Kevin should be back. So that will be, I hope so. He's the host of that one. So, yeah, so we have a lot of content. Is there anything else you want to mention before we go, Angel?
Guess not.
All right. So everyone take that, internalize it. Go follow us on Twitter at Ram Nintendo. Go subscribe to us on all the podcast apps. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Pandora, Spotify. We may be on Amazon's new podcast thing. I'm not sure. Someone let us know if we are. We're also on, I think, Pandora, did I say? We're on Pandora, and you can find us on YouTube. RamNintendo.com is the channel name. Individually, we're on Twitter. I'm JSR7. Angel is Wero, WEIRO_O. And Kevin's not here for the final word, so Angel, I think the duty falls upon you.
Oh.